Good morning, everybody. This is Tina Greenbaum from Mastery Under Pressure. And I have a fabulous guest today and some other guests that are here with us. And I want to talk a little bit about conflict, what's going on in the world, mastery under pressure, why we do this, why I'm doing this program. Patterns that are created in childhood impact us as grown-ups. And how we deal with each other, how we deal with the world, how we deal with relationships, how we deal with conflict has everything to do with those little secrets of what comes from our past. So we are starting today with our wonderful, wonderful guest, Agape Redwood Rogers. And I am delighted to meet her and have you meet her. We met at a conference a couple months ago and kind of started talking and just kind of chatting. And I said, I want you, girl, I want you here. And I want you to share with the world a lot of the secrets that have been connected to your success. So as I don't have a written bio of what Agape has done, I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about herself, and then I'll start asking her some questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tina, for inviting me. What's interesting is, when you invited me on the podcast, I had no idea what the topic would be, but I said, Tina, of course, yes. I thought it would be about, high performance boards, recruitment, family business boards, some of the trends and, behind the scenes of a recruiter, compensation. There's a million things that we could have covered, but Tina, I did not expect us to go into this leadership journey. I was just like, oh my God, right? But again, I know that is what makes your show so special when we get to go under the hood and really look at some of those things that make, that make people do what they do. So thank you again for allowing me to be here. I am the board search lead at the Family Business Consulting Group. And what I do is I help to place independent directors on private family boards. I make sure that they have the right qualifications, the fit, and they can meet the needs of the family. And so it's definitely a joy and a privilege to be able to support families in this way. And I'm really enjoying it. So that is
awesome. That's what she does. Okay, so tell us a little bit, Agape, about your background, kind of your family of origin, things that you have kind of taken on that have become really, really important to you, patterns that you learned that have really kind of led to where you are today.
Yeah. So I was born to an entrepreneurial family. Everyone in my family, including my grandparents, were entrepreneurs. My parents were involved in real estate and retail, and my father was a first-generation immigrant to the U.S., and my mother had Southern roots, and I believe she's Superwoman because she had 6 kids. And wow. I'm pretty confident that I'm the favorite of all of her children. And so they're also very much involved in the community and the church, right? I learned from them, if you don't work, you do not eat. So, you really don't have a choice when you're in a family business and you grow up in a family business, especially when you're young, you don't have a choice but to be enrolled and support the vision and to work in the business. So you learn and you observe a lot of things. And so that is a little bit about, the family business and really just seeing those great traits of hard work and commitment come to life. I've a little bit about my background is I've always been obsessed with stories, telling them, being a part of them, writing them. And as I've gotten older, being able to accept or reject stories, right? The stories that I'm telling myself, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so it all started in 4th grade when my teacher, Mrs. Woodruff, she said, Agape, you're doing too much talking in class. What is going on? And I always get in trouble for talking too much. And so Mrs. Woodruff, she put me in an oratory competition. And I was allowed at that point to really express myself, to really talk for a purpose, right? Which really allowed me to do so much, right? So I started to compete. I was very successful in my competitions. I later on, by the time I graduated high school, I had already been on television, in a newspaper, and on TV, a TV newspaper and radio. By the time I graduated high school, got scholarships to do oratory in college, and graduated, um, and wanted to pursue more in media and journalism. And
I'm going
so,
to stop you for 1 second because what you said is just so important. And look at the trajectory of somebody, a young fourth grader who talked too much. It could have gone any which way. It could have
yeah.
gone into, I'm too much and I need to keep quiet, or I need not to express myself. So I just want to point out how coaches, teachers, can be unbelievably influential in a person's trajectory of their lives.
Oh, for
So
sure.
I just wanted to put, because that's just really, look where it took you. Okay, so you
Yeah.
said you wanted to go into journalism or broadcasting, and then what happened?
In
Yes.
300 feet,
One
turn
moment.
left.
Sorry. And so, um, yeah, so, yeah, so, yeah, so totally. So went to work for a talent agency for anchors and reporters. And in 2008, the economic recession hit. And at the time, my sister and I was actually working for the same talent agency, for anchors and reporters. And we had an option to go to LA, start our lives all over again with this company, or just do our own thing. And so we decided to do our own thing. We launched S&G Speakers, which is still around today. My sister is doing a phenomenal job at leading the company. But from there, I I was working with my sister for nearly a decade, and had a really great experience. I decided to lean more into leadership development. So I began to work around leadership development for the Executive Leadership Council, which is a preeminent membership-based organization that helps Fortune 500 and Global 1000 C-suite executives to navigate the corporate landscape and to have community and connection and network and be with each other. And so I worked with their program around the Corporate Board Initiative, which allowed me to have a lot of exposure to boards and governance, and being able to tie in the leadership development experience that I've had and the entrepreneur experience. I began to work with the Family Business Consulting Group, and tying in my family business experience with the talent acquisition and the C-suite experience, just allowing me to be here, has been really rewarding. And it's definitely been a gift, right? And it's what's funny is I got tapped on the shoulder by a recruiter on my birthday, and literally, so it's literally a gift to be able to serve in this capacity that I am doing now.
Beautiful. So again, the twists and the turns and the things that have happened and where they've brought you is just spectacular. So let me ask you another question. What were some of the patterns or behaviors that didn't work for you, that you really had to do some soul searching? And you and I have talked about this idea of personal growth and how important that has been to you, because as we can see where it has taken you. What were some of the patterns that you started to recognize that needed some adjustment?
Avoiding conflict, right? Being in a family business, we had to do what we had to do to work together. And sometimes we would not address things to keep the family harmony, right? Like certain sensitive issues may have been swept under the carpet, right? Also, enmeshment, right? Boundaries.
So can you describe that a little bit more? It is definitely a therapeutic term that we use. So the enmeshment, what does that look like? What did that look like for you?
So when the personal and our professional lives are intertwined, right? And it can be challenging to establish boundaries And so you're always on and you're always in and you're always, um, you know, putting yourself in a position that can disrupt your the energy or your family harmony because you're in something that you can't really get out of, you're in, you're on, you are what you are because you are a part of the business, right?
Yes.
And so I think that that has been something that had been a challenge for me to learn and to be very aware of, to really make sure that there is intentionality around making sure that there are boundaries for my business as well as the personal life.
So one thing I'm going to add on that topic, okay, people who are very empathic frequently become very enmeshed. And so I can feel what you feel, I can feel what he feels, I can feel what she feels. And the problem becomes that we can't get out.
Yes.
We're looking at the world from the problem person, and then we become actually not completely useful. So I always like to say, it's great to be an empath, and I'm definitely an empath. I can jump into somebody's shoes in a second, but I had to learn how to get out. And a great leader, honestly, can empathize with somebody and at the same time not be in it. I can see the problem, because if we have two people that are in the problem at the same time, who's going to be the helper? Right? So it's always being outside of the problem so that I can see what's going on and I can be useful and I can kind of put myself in your shoes, but I got to get out. So I just want to add that piece to it, because it's really important, especially working in a family business from what you're describing.
Oh yeah, for sure. For
Right?
sure. Yeah.
Right. So your family and the way that they dealt with conflict, as you said, was they avoided.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how did you kind of bring that to your awareness of then being, again, as a leader, we have to be able to have difficult conversations.
Yes.
How did you kind
That's
of
very good.
transition to that?
Tina, I believe in the power of coaches. I am an advocate. I cannot praise executive coaches or ontological life coaches, therapists. I cannot praise them enough. I think they're definitely needed in order for me to, I think a big part of my awareness came from my coaching sessions, right? I invested in a leadership coach to help guide through some of those triggers or some of the things that are unknown and blind spots because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right. Right.
Having conversations around with my coach, am I surviving? Am I thriving? Am I being in power, right? Am I being in response, or am I being a victim to certain situations? I think that, having these conversations, Tina, it came from a coach, really.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So thank you for making the plug. I like to say that our blind spots are our blind spots, and everybody else knows them. So wouldn't you want to know them too? And a good mentor, a good coach, somebody who cares about you and can say things in the way that you can hear them, can really bring to you a level of awareness things that you might not have been aware of. And then the challenge becomes, okay, so now that I'm aware, how am I going to change my behavior?
Yeah.
Okay? So I like to say that this takes a lot of courage, this work. It's not just for the weak-minded.
No.
And so I encourage anybody who wants to move into a leadership position or improve their leadership. I was just talking to a fellow who works in sales and coaches and teaches people, and the pressures and decisions that you have to make on a daily basis, every day. And if you don't know how to manage this instrument, I call it an instrument, this mind body thing that we have, we get to make sometimes very poor decisions. because when we're anxious and we're nervous, the first thing that goes, this part of the brain, and it goes offline. So again, being able to manage yourself is really, really important. Okay, so another question. Who has inspired you?
Oh, my mother, my grandmothers. Um, I think they're all amazing. They have, you know, my mother, she will give you the shirt on her back, like literally, if you're in need. I just love the fact that she comes from such a place of love and service. And I I admire her so much. And I think that she's powerful in being able to do that, right? My grandmother who came over to this country and didn't have much of anything and just started working from the bottom up and really building a really great real estate portfolio and just doing amazing things from nothing, right? My other grandmother having multiple businesses, and even to this day, she is 90 years old. But to this day, she hosts an Easter party for the community, and there are hundreds of kids in which she donates baskets and she feeds them and she makes sure that they have school supplies. And, she's doing this at 90, right? The alderman comes by, and they take pictures, and it's the news. And I mean, and I admire it so much. And she comes from such a place of service and love and community. And so when you have women who do amazing things despite the odds, despite health, despite, different things that can come up in death, losing spouses or whatever the case may be, and they still have such a big heart and love, it's amazing and it's inspiring to me.
Beautiful. And again, you bring up another wonderful thing that I want to put a highlight on. Many times we think about business and we only think about money and profit and who's going to win and the competition and so on. But in my experience, and certainly in your experience, it's bringing the heart into the business.
Yeah.
Making the impact. What's leadership about? Leadership is about leading. I had one client who said to me, I don't need you. He was a CTO of a tech company. He said, I don't need you to tell me about all the tech things. And he said, I got 200, 300 people behind me. He said, I need your help with the people. And that's kind of what you bring. I know that you do. I know that you bring that to your clients and your company and everybody that you touch, and to your child. I know that you have a youngster back there. And so I appreciate that. All right, another question. Looking at the time. People say that we learn the most from what we consider failures. Can you share with us the biggest lesson you learned from something that didn't work out as you had imagined?
That's a great question. And I think about when I think about a moment where I tried to be someone that I'm not, right? And not being true to my authentic voice, feeling external pressures to be and do something that wasn't genuine and authentic to me, right? And I feel like that was a big, a big issue, right? A big hurdle that I had to overcome in really finding my voice, navigating the imposter syndrome, right? I feel like that has been something that had been a challenge, right? Being in a certain room, being a woman, someone of color, someone that sometimes may be younger or whatever the case may be, and then, navigating, you know, how that all works out, right? So just really learning to be true to myself and navigating and letting go of being an imposter and just really owning my voice, my authenticity, and knowing that I deserve to be in the room. And, I'm ready. So, yeah.
There you go. So one of the other things that gets played out in that role from what you described, again, in my experience, is looking for approval, right? You had a
Mhm.
lot of very powerful women around you and people around you, right? So to be the good girl, to be the one that, that people like and approve of, and the good grades and the good this and the good that, we sometimes get lost in looking over here. How am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? And using the external, right, to
Yeah.
decide the internal. And so again, I bring out the challenges that this work is not for the faint-hearted. You have to really kind of be courageous to face yourself, face your elders and people
Yeah.
that you respect, and say, no, I think we're going to do it. I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that out. There was another question that you actually asked me to ask, and I'm going to. What advice would you give your younger self from where you are in your life today?
Mm. Um, what advice? The advice I would give to my younger self is use your imagination. You know, being able to know your limiting thoughts and behaviors, know your limiting thoughts and behaviors. And, my grandmother, she says this to me. She says, you can screw up, but don't get stuck. Right? I would give myself so many different pieces of advice. Right? Like, it's okay. And it's okay to screw up. When you screw up, right? Let's say you step in the mud, guess what? You're moving. That shows that you're moving in the right direction, right? And I think so many times, we can get stuck on, trying to have things perfect, trying to have things right, but there will never be a perfect time. It's all about, building the plane as you fly it, right? And I think that's another piece of advice that I would give to my younger self. It's okay to build the plane as you fly it, right? And it's okay. And I think that just learning to be okay with uncertainty, that it's okay to do that. Um, and um, do your best and let God do the rest, right?
Yeah.
Do your best and let God do the rest. That's all that really counts.
I like that one. Yeah. And again, the idea of living with uncertainty, coming from a perspective of being a former control freak, I literally could give myself that name, wanting to control things and control people and control ideas, because we have this crazy idea that it makes us feel safe. If I'm
Mm,
in charge, right, then I'm safe. And the truth is that we live in an uncertain world. And the only things that we can control are a lot of the things that you've talked about. I can control my reactions, I can control my behavior, I control my choices. So many other things I can't control. And to be an entrepreneur, especially, it's very, very uncertain. We don't get a regular paycheck. There's nobody pays for our vacations or paid holidays, insurance. None of those benefits. They're all on you.
yeah.
And so, and the world changes, as we can see, every single day. So that learning to live in uncertainty is probably the greatest gift that we could give to a child, that we could give to people around us, that this is the world. And one of the things that I learned from one of my teachers is that, this fear of being in the unknown, we do know certain things about it. It's unpredictable. It has no shape. It has no form. It has no boundaries. But what we do know is if we stay in it long enough, it becomes the known.
Mm, that's
And
right.
it's having that courage to stay in there and let life reveal itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Tina, no one likes to change. No one likes to change. No one likes change. But if we don't change, I mean, we die, essentially. We have to
Okay.
continue to
Yeah.
evolve.
And I don't know that actually no one likes it. Some people have a greater tolerance for it.
That is true.
Right. And so that increases our level of risk that we're willing to tolerate,
That's true.
because change is inevitable. It is the only thing that we can count on.
That's right.
And my kind of definition of great mental health is how quickly can you recognize that what was 2 minutes ago is no more. Okay, how quickly can you get into this new paradigm? Because this is the only thing that we do have any control over. So last words. What are some of the sacrifices that you've had to make to be where you are, to balance your personal life, your professional life?
The sacrifices. So knowing that delaying gratification, right? Delaying gratification in so many different areas around financial, decisions, what I eat. I think that food is a huge part of who we are as individuals. It impacts our decisions and in the way we think and what we do. And so even though it sounds like, oh, it's not the typical what you think you hear in a, what did you sacrifice? Well, I sacrifice eating the things that I see that I want to eat, right? Somebody asked me, what would be your last meal? I was like, I want a juicy hamburger with extra bacon and cheese on top of cheese, but I do not eat that way. And not to say that that's bad or whatever, but for my body, that's what I have to sort of kind of sacrifice in order to be at my ultimate, optimal performance and have a clear way of thinking and being, so I don't have brain fog or whatever it is. Maybe I have to eat a certain way and live a certain way. So those are the things that I have to sacrifice. Some of those.
And things that probably nobody would have said or thought about. So, but definitely true. That chocolate cake looks really, really, really good to me.
Right? With ice cream and lots of it.
So this has been awesome. You're just as real as I know you are, and the things that you have shared have been incredibly valuable. And I'm hoping that people will take the time, listen carefully, and follow many of the things that you have kind of really shared with us that have kind of gotten you to where you are today. So I know that people will be able to get in touch with you because we'll have the notes afterwards. But if you just want to say, just put out one last thing, if you could kind of share with us, what would be the last thing that you would want to leave with us?
I would say get support. Get support. You are not in your leadership journey alone. And, the things that you're going through, if you need support, reach out and get support from a coach, from a family business consultant, from people who can help you to get to the next level. In order for you to go there and get there, you need a coach, you need support. So make sure that you don't think that you're alone and you reach out to get the support you need because it's there and you can do it. So
beautiful. Thank you so much. We have a minute or two we're going to take if anybody has a question or a comment to kind of let us know. And I'm excited about getting this out here. Okay, so I can't really see who's behind the screen. And again, I thank you so much. This is Tina from Mastery Under Pressure, talking about leadership, all the pieces that go into making a great leader. And we had a really, really great example today here. So looking forward to seeing you next month. I have another fabulous guest, and we're going to keep going. Thanks again.